Here are some things that I've found out while using Minolta Autopak pocket cameras. First thing I want to show you is the lens cover here. Open that up, and in there is our lens. With this lens cover shut, there we go, with that shut, the camera does not permit you to fire the shutter button. It stays locked, which is good, so you don't actually take pictures while this is in your pocket or something. But you open that up, gives access to the lens there, and oh, yep, it works. This particular Autopak camera has two lenses. It has a normal lens and a telephoto lens. A normal lens will give you a wider field of view so you can see more within the frame, and with the telephoto it brings objects farther away closer to you. The way they did this was, you can see in that square in there is our shutter, and the normal lens is actually behind the shutter. So that's where one of the lenses is. And then when you go to telephoto lens is in front of the shutter, and the normal lens moves off to the side, moves out of the way. I'll show you what that looks like inside the camera body. So you open that up. We're in telephoto right now. You can see in there our shutter's in there. There's no lens behind the shutter. But let's say we want to go to normal, the normal lens. Telephoto moves out of the way, and the normal lens moves in behind the shutter. Which is, I think, pretty interesting. One thing you want to be sure you do with this camera, a lot of point and shoots don't necessarily have manual focus. They just have a focus to infinity. But this one is going to be very important that you try to get your subject in focus. If you look at our dial here, it starts at 3.3 feet down at the bottom and goes to 5 feet. You know, this is a sliding thing, so it's not just 3.3, just 5, it's anywhere in between there. 3.3, 5, 10, and then all the way down to infinity. I was curious as to, I mean, it only goes down to 3.3, right? So I've heard that a lot of cameras with their strap, sometimes they have a strap that indicates what the minimum focusing distance is. This particular strap is, I measured, it's 1.5 feet. Which means, if that is the case, that it's okay to take selfies with. More on that in a minute. The camera has in the viewfinder here a little red LED, and the purpose of that is to help you with your focusing and with your exposure, your light. When you're inside, you always want to use the flash. That's kind of common along with point and shoot cameras. If I were to try and take a picture indoors here without the flash, and I press the shutter halfway down, you can see that LED illuminates and stays solid. That means that something's wrong. So let's turn the flash on and see what happens. When you turn the flash on, I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but you should hear it whine softly as it starts up. And then as it comes to readiness, there's a little indicator here that flickers. All right. So now, if I were to try and take a picture indoors, and I press the shutter halfway, look at that LED. The LED flickers as well. So there it is flickering. Flash is turned off. And there it is solid because I don't have enough light. It's telling me something's wrong. When you're out of doors, you don't need the flash. And so if you're focused correctly, the LED won't be solid or flickering. It'll only flicker with the flash. I've tested this out outside. It does come on if your focus isn't quite right. So for instance, I went outside and I set the focus to infinity for an object that's very far away, and then I went right up to a tree and I did this and the light came on. It's like you're too close to that tree. I set the focus all the way down to 3.3 and I got my tape measure out and measured how close I could get to a particular thing. It depends on how the light is, what kind of thing you're focusing on as well. But the closest I was able to get with my tape measure was 1.5 feet. So that would seem to indicate that this lanyard is a good indication of your minimum distance. So if you were to take a picture and hold your lanyard out, you know, that would be the minimum distance you'd want to keep away from your subject. But it's also good to keep an eye on your little LED there. I think that's pretty handy. Now, from my outstretched arm all the way to my head, if I were to take a selfie, that's about 2.5 feet. So you should, you would think that selfies are possible, and indeed they are. I'll show you one that I took, this one, and got some good focus on there, good definition in my face. I took that with a 460T. So it is possible. I've also taken a number of selfies that didn't turn out that great. They were kind of blurry. So this isn't necessarily a selfie machine, but if the conditions are right, it'll work. I have another couple cameras here, another couple Autopaks. I just thought I'd show you some curiosities here. This is a TX, priming that flash here. Now this one is interesting. We get the flash going, indicator's going. It's ready to fire. Press the shutter button part of the way, and it flickers. But the one thing this camera does that my other cameras do not is it squeaks at you when it's not good. So turn the flash off and see if you can hear the squeak. It really doesn't want you to take a bad picture. I think that's kind of funny. Oh yeah, by the way, to turn the flash on, so we've got our 3 modes here. We've got sunny, cloudy, and flash. To turn the flash on, you just scoot it over to flash. That pops the flash out to the side and starts it up. Just like that. And if you want to turn the flash off, you just push it in. That turns it off. Pretty neat little design there. The other camera I have here is, oops, oh no. 450E. Same kind of deal. I got it primed and ready to go. Flash is sticking out the side there. And if we were to press the shutter button halfway, we got a flickering LED. But if we turn the flash off, press the shutter button halfway, it's a solid LED. But it doesn't squeak at you like the TX does. All 3 of these cameras have their battery compartment right here. And the battery door can be a little tricky, especially on this one here I found. Sometimes I've had to just kind of dig my thumbnail in there to get it open, but you want to be careful with it. Pull it down, and then it lifts up, and then there's your battery. Pretty simple. And then to close it, push it down. It's sticking up a little bit, so press down a little bit, and then push it in. Just be careful with it. I did break a flange on this one by not being careful enough with it. You can see maybe that it's not sitting in there quite right. So when I shoot with this one, I end up kind of holding the battery door closed with my thumb. Not the end of the world, but you know, be careful with these older cameras. So beyond the flash, we also got the cloudy and sunny here. I'll show you what that looks like. Actually, I'll use the TX to demonstrate. So yeah, set it on sunny. We'll put it on telephoto mode so that our shutter is not obstructed. You can see right down in there to the aperture, the little circle down in the bottom there, that's where the light comes in to your film. So when it's sunny, all you need is a little circle because there's plenty of light. But if it's cloudy, we'll move this button over here to the cloudy. You can take a look at what happens to that circle. It gets bigger. And I think this is kind of a neat aperture shape. I thought before that they were only in circles, but the way this opens up, it opens up to kind of a little diamond shape. And then finally, if we're to turn the flash on, look at that. That's all the way open. And the reason that is because the aperture with the flash on is also dependent on our focus here. And I have the focus set to infinity, so I'm looking at something way far away. I need a lot of light to try and expose what's far away. But let's say I want to focus on something closer, like maybe 5 or 10 feet. I move that focus in and the aperture closes a little bit. I move the focus button in a little more, aperture closes up even more. So if I'm at 3.3 feet, as it suggests, the aperture is quite close to the sunny outdoor aperture size. Again, we turn the flash off. Cloudy, it's a bigger aperture because there's less light with clouds, so it needs a bigger aperture to let the light in. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and load this 460T up with some film. I've got some black and white film here. .100 speed. And all we do to load this up, open the film door, and you just stick it right in. Push it in a little bit, and then close the door. Now, you're not quite ready to shoot. What you want is to see a number on this paper here indicating what shot you're on. So right now we've got arrows. So we're going to take our advance slider here, and we're going to slide it all the way down. Let's see what happens with that paper. Moves a little bit. Let's do it again. Moves a little bit. We want to keep doing it until we see a 1. We're getting there. There's our 1. All right. Now, I'll take a quick picture. All right. So that was our first picture on there. Now, you advance it once. And now you're on 2, and that's all you need. You only need to advance it once after you've reached the numbers. This 110 film, as you see, is in a cartridge. Here's another little cartridge. The film is completely in there, and the only thing that's exposed to the light right now is this little box here. So it's possible that you can open your film door, take your cartridge out, and maybe swap it with another cartridge, or maybe put your cartridge in another camera. The only thing is that when you do that, you will expose a frame. It's not as bad as opening the film door to a 35mm camera, because that will expose the whole roll. It'll ruin your whole roll. In this case, it'll only ruin one frame. But it's still a frame, so you want to be wise with how you're handling your film. I think for this one, I won't try and take this out of the camera mid-roll. I have done it before, though. I can show you what that looks like. Okay, so here is a little strip of film negative that I shot. And in this case, I took the cartridge out of one camera and put it into another camera. So I had shot these 3 photos on one camera. Then I took it out, and when I took it out, this frame here was exposed to the light. And you can see that it became quite dark, and that's unusable. It's just going to show up as a white, just white image. But I put it into the next camera, and you can see we got pictures again. Also, just thought I'd show you, I'm kind of a sucker for things that are really small and cute. So look at the size of this film negative and then compare it to the size of a 35mm negative. Isn't that funny? I think that's just really neat. When you reach the end of your film roll and you've done a single slide for every frame advance, you've taken your final picture. What you do is you continue to advance the film. There you go. And got an arrow here that says keep going, so we're going to keep going. And our slider still comes back all the way, so let's do it one more time. There we go. And now the slider is stuck part of the way. We've advanced it as far as we can. Getting the film out of these things can be kind of tricky. Let's see if I can do that just by pulling on it. Hey, it loosened up. Ooh. It's coming. There we go. So you can get it out just by pulling on it. But in this particular camera body, it's a little tricky sometimes. If you find that you just can't get it, and at your last resort, one thing you can do is take your camera and somewhat gently slap it into your hand like this. The cartridge falls out. In general, you don't want to go slapping your electronics around. It's not good for them. But if push comes to shove, that'll get your film out. And then with your film advance button here, stuck it halfway, get it to go back out, all you do is shove it the rest of the way. Once you're empty, once your film's out, just shove it the rest of the way, and you're good to load up another roll of film.